On today's Toy Spot, we're going to be looking at the DC Universe Batman Arkham City. This is the 2-pack featuring Batman and Two-Face. As a branch off from the Batman Legacy line and the DC Universe line, this is the 2-pack featuring 2 characters from Arkham City. And now these are 2 new figures. The Batman Legacy line has kind of been a mixed bag, incorporating, of course, the movie tie-ins, movie figures, the comic style figures, more closer to, I guess, the DC Universe figures, and then they've also done the games as well. The package features the Batman logo up at the top, Arkham City. On the side, we've got a picture of Batman and Two-Face, a very impressive Batman up at the top there as well. On the back, features 2 nice images of the figures. There are read-ups. Let's read them, shall we? The read-up on Two-Face says, former Gotham City District Attorney Harvey Dent was transformed by a chemical accident and became Batman's schizoid nemesis, ultimately sent to spend his days in Arkham Asylum. But when Mayor Quincy Sharp declares the insane asylum unfit for criminals, he creates Arkham City, a lawless, walled city whose inhabitants are free to live out their most horrific nightmares. Two-Face, seeking to stake his claim and establish his super-criminal reputation, kidnaps Catwoman and intends to perform a public execution of the feline fatale. The read-up on Batman says, as gangs of criminals prowl the streets of the walled Arkham City, Batman searches for a sign of Catwoman, aka Selina Kyle. But time is running out. Now in the acid-charred hands of Two-Face, Catwoman is about to face trial and public execution with the insane former district attorney as the judge and jury. Batman must find Catwoman in time, save her from Two-Face, and escape alive. Alive of feet, even Batman will find nearly impossible. A really good image of the 2 characters, the 2 figures from this set. But that's packaging on the 2 figures. What we're going to do is get this opened up and we will have ourselves a look at both Batman and Two-Face. So there is more on the way. Don't go anywhere. Alright, so let's have a look at, say, Two-Face first. The Two-Face is alright. And I would say, as a Two-Face fan, I'm going to zoom into his face here. Focus, 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 focus. I don't know why my camera doesn't want to focus today. Yes, no, yes, possibly. As a Two-Face fan, I'm not 100% thrilled with this figure. Yes, it's more of a realistic interpretation of Two-Face, but I don't know. I know some people prefer the look of Two-Face from the Dark Knight movie, and I would say it was a great looking Two-Face. The fact that it seems to have now become the norm for Two-Face disappoints this guy just a slight bit. And the only reason for it, a little hair, let me get that out of the way. The only reason why is, as a guy who grew up with Two-Face, I prefer the more outlandish Two-Face that has the... No, it's not going to zoom. Focus? Yes? No? I don't know why you don't want to focus on me, camera. You're being difficult. But I prefer the hair on the one side of Two-Face's face, the scarred face that is. And instead we don't really necessarily have that. Now we just basically have a bald one side of Two-Face. This particular Two-Face is just alright in the fact that the one side, the scarred side of Two-Face, just basically looks like a blob. It just looks like a gooped paint blob of a face. There's really not much going for it. Yes, he was scarred, and his face has partially melted, so you kind of have to... Yes, it is realistic, I suppose. But I don't know. I'm just not a fan of this. It just basically looks like a blob of sculpt. Yes, it is more accurate in even the paint. The suit and everything else, it has the burn marks. His arm is extremely burned as well. But it just doesn't scream to me a fantastic looking figure. And again, this comes from somebody who really likes Two-Face. The mouth, again, the mouth is just alright. You can make out that, yes, there are teeth there, but it's just a bit of a messy looking figure, at least in my opinion. My opinion may not mean anything, I don't know. The one arm of Two-Face is him sporting a coin. There's really not much detail in the coin itself. It's awfully thick of a coin as well. It's just, like I said, it's just an all-right figure. I find it ironic the fact that Two-Face also is sporting a watch on the scarred arm. Something else that I'm not too much of a fan of is just the fact that his costume, and really this doesn't stem anything towards the figure itself, but the fact that the costume is just very generic. The very basic white with a black shirt. I guess it looks to be originally a white tie, and then the burned side of the suit. I'm just that kind of guy that loves the over-the-top Two-Face, perhaps with the really funky one side of suit and the other side just a basic suit. But as a realistic approach, yes, okay, the Two-Face isn't bad, but as a figure, the figure is just alright. If you are a fan of this style of Two-Face, perhaps this is more your thing, but I just find the Two-Face just kind of looks like a bit of a mess. In the way of his articulation, Two-Face's head can rotate left and right. He seems to have no articulation in the shoulders where these shoulders can come out, but you can rotate the shoulders. You can rotate at the bicep, you can bend at the elbow, you can also rotate at the hand. There is waist articulation. The legs can move forward and back. They don't seem to move out. At least it doesn't appear that, well, yes, okay, they can move out slightly, but I would worry that that would make these legs, as you can already see, it would make these legs extremely loose. There's a swivel in the thigh, a bend at the knee, and also seems to be no articulation in the feet whatsoever. Spot may very well be wrong, but being that this is Mattel, and Mattel is notorious for reusing molds, I'm wondering if this is the same costume that was used for the Two-Face that was from the Movie Masters line. Perhaps also used for Walter Peck from the Ghostbusters line. The suit definitely looks familiar. If I could give Two-Face, and really, I know so far it seems like Spot's really on the fence with this figure. I'm not a fan of the more realistic style of Two-Face. The figure, I guess, is executed well enough, but just to me, it looks like the figure is just blobbed. It's just a big goopy mess. The Two-Face, I'm going to only give about a 6.52. Moving along to the Batman. The Batman, I think, is a little bit nicer. Now, you may be on the fence. Some people prefer this particular Batman as the Arkham Asylum Batman than, say, this Batman right here. And I'll bring in the DC Direct Batman. As a matter of preference, some would say, well, he seems to have more of a black paint scheme in the game versus the way that they've given him the blue in the DC Direct Batman. The Batman Legacy Batman features just a standard black and gray color scheme. The one thing I don't like, if I keep the other Batman in, The one thing I do like about this Batman that I don't like about this Batman is the face. The face on this Batman is far superior, at least in my opinion. My opinion may again mean very little, but I just really like the design, the face on the DC Direct Arkham Asylum Batman. If I then bring in the other Batman from the Batman Legacy line, it just seems alright. Yes, it does benefit from the fact it's got the other pieces of articulation to this figure that the other one didn't necessarily have. But it just seems like a much weaker face sculpt. It's just very fat. The eyes as well have this. His eyes look extremely blue, and to the point where it seems to cover the majority of his cowl eye holes. The mouth again is all right. The ears aren't as defined as I would say the DC Direct Batman was. But the body and everything else is relatively nice. And I like the cape. But I just can't get past... I know I'm comparing apples to oranges. Well, I guess it would be two different types of apples. But I really like the cape on the DC Direct Batman. This cape is just... It's kind of a larger version of the Justice League Unlimited Batman, where it's just a really, really wide cape. Again, the coloring is nice. I just really am not a fan of the face very much. In the way of his articulation, Batman has a ball-jointed head, ball-jointed shoulders, a rotation in the bicep, a bend at the elbow, a rotation in the hand. One thing that this Batman has that the other Batman didn't have is he's got the mid-torso crunch. It seems to have no articulation in the waist, probably due to the fact that the utility belt is sculpted the way it is. I can also see little indications that there's a bit of glue there. Perhaps there is articulation, but there definitely isn't on my figure. The legs can bend back and forth, in and out, rotation in the thigh, bend at the knee, and what looks to be just standard swivel in the foot. I don't want to compare, say, this Batman to the other Batman. I mean, obviously there is a considerable detail difference between the two. Some people really prefer this Batman as the Arkham Asylum Batman. I'm personally on the fence that I prefer the DC Direct Batman. But this Batman for me is just alright. It really doesn't stand out for me, and certainly as somebody who collects several Batman figures, I think putting this guy on the shelf, to me this figure I think will just kind of get lost, in the mix, whereas this Batman I think is just, well, you've seen my review of it, so you kind of know what I feel about the figure. The Two-Face I a little hard on. The Batman I think I'm probably only give it about 7.54. I don't know if this set is for everybody. It's really not necessarily my cup of tea. The Batman I think could have been a little bit better. The Two-Face for me is disappointing. This is really only for somebody who really wants the Arkham City figures. The fact that we are probably likely getting DC Direct Arkham City figures, I think there is a much more better Two-Face, I think, coming than I think going with the Mattel version of Two-Face. So I would say maybe hold off. If you're on the fence, like I was on the fence, I maybe would say hold off and get a DC Direct Two-Face when it comes out. This set is just alright. Today's Toy Spot. Gee, Spot, you were awfully hard on this set. I know. Today's Toy Spot, we were having a look at the Mattel Batman Legacy. We were looking at the Arkham City 2-pack featuring a Batman and a Two-Face. Just alright. I thank you guys for watching, as you always do. Stay tuned for more Toy Spots on the way, and I will see you guys next time.